Good morning, everybody. How you doing? Today we're going to talk about pulling your car behind your RV. Most people call their car their toad, so you'll hear that term quite a bit in the video. And a number of people have commented about it on the YouTube channel, and I've got a few emails about it. What does it cost, and how do you do it, and how do you figure out if your car is towable? And then brakes for your car, auxiliary brakes. So we're going to go over all that. It's a pretty important topic, and I don't really, it would lower our the value of our traveling quite a bit if we did not have a car. You need to run to the store, you want to go see different things going on in your area, and you can't take, especially us with a 42-foot motorhome, you just can't get there. And our bicycles, we ride them some, but not near riding them to the store or nothing. You need a car, in our opinion. So we tow a 2013 Lincoln MKX, and we used to tow a Jeep Grand Cherokee. We never had a bit of trouble with our Jeep Grand Cherokee. The wheel alignment, we towed it with a 40-foot MCI bus, and it just was perfect. But one thing we never knew about auxiliary brakes, that it's the law, you have to have auxiliary brakes. We didn't know that, and we had heard of brakes, but we just thought it was an accessory. And to be honest, with this big of a rig, I think there's more than enough braking power. I don't think really you need them, but what I think doesn't really matter, I don't know. And the law says you have to have them, and heaven forbid you had some accident where you couldn't stop in time, and if you'd had those brakes in your car, might have made the difference. So it was out of ignorance that we didn't have it before, but we've had them ever since we bought our current our Monaco coach. There's 3 or 4 pieces of equipment you got to have to tow your car. You got to have the tow bar there, and you got to have the base plate that the base plate bolts onto the frame of your car, so you have to buy that and then have it hooked up. And here's a base plate for our Lincoln, and it's these 2 steel connectors that's bolted to your frame. And here you can see them here once they're installed. Now, ours have been on for 4 or 5 years, and they kind of got, you can see a little bit of rust and all that stuff. But if when they were new and they were black, you really didn't notice them there too much. Pearl didn't like putting them on her Lincoln, but after just a few days she got used to it, and she never even noticed it. And you can paint that over real easy without too much of an issue. But anyway, that's the base plate, they call it. That costs about $400, and it costs $400 to $600 to have it installed, depending on which car you have. So this part here, you can take, when you get to the campground, you can pull that cross piece off, so it's not so big and ugly there. And then it just takes a minute to put it back on. You slide it in the crossbar into your base plate, and you clip your pins in. There's a pin on each side, and you're good to go. In the unlikely event that you need to check these every morning to make somebody didn't pull one of your pins out or something. And they just almost can't come undone, but in the unlikely event that they could, you check your pins every morning before you hook up. But you have this safety redundancy, this safety cable, so that if somehow those pins came loose, you're still connected to the crossbar, still connected to your car, and it's going to drag it down the highway. So once you get the cross piece put on there, you pull your car around to the back of your coach. I usually park it's about 2 foot, and I get my crossbar, make sure it'll reach and everything, and then I hook them both up. And then if somehow something happened to the crossbar, it came loose or something or broke, you have your emergency cables. And you want to hook the one that's on the left side of your coach, hook it to the right side of your car. And the one that's on the right side of your coach, hook it to the left side of your car. And that's in case it was to come loose, and that's what was pulling them down. It, to some extent, is supposed to kind of help make the car stay behind the coach rather than pulling off to one side. I don't know how good that works, but it makes some sense. So then I back up to fully extend these rods. And if one of them doesn't get fully extended, once I finish my hookup, I'll have Pearl pull forward and turn a little left and a little right, and that'll pull that steel rod out so they're both extended out and locked. You don't want one of them loose that's coming in and out. They have to be extended out and locked. Now this is an emergency brake. It's a breakaway cable. So you hook it up to the coach in case everything totally failed. You have that cable there, and it would pull this pin out, and that there will turn on your emergency brakes inside the car. And I'll show you where that hooks up here in a little bit. But I mean, it's safety and redundancy. It's just important. You don't want your car breaking loose and coasting down the highway at 60 miles an hour for 2 or 3 miles. Something bad is going to happen from that. And then you hook up your lights. We had our light system in the car hooked up to a plug so that when we hook up our lights, we're using the lights from our car, our turn signals and our brake lights. For 5 or 6 years on our Jeep Grand Cherokee, we just used a set of magnetic lights that stuck on the back of the car, and then right blinker and left blinker, and it worked just fine. But this is a little easier. Here's our RVI brake. You just set it in the car. You hook up that little piston to the brake pedal. Our Lincoln, you have to have something to push it up against. Some cars have a bar on their seat. Our Lincoln didn't have one, so it comes with the kit. I had to bolt it onto the seat frame. It took 15 minutes. So the whole assembly pushes up firm against your chair there in your car. It's got a couple of settings. Most all cars now are vacuum assist. So you pump this little piston 3 times, and that bleeds down your vacuum in your brakes, so that you just have the manual braking and no vacuum assist. So that's why you push it 3 times every time. And then you don't start the car. You put your car to tow our car, you have to put it in neutral, leave the accessory key on, and it's good to go. You pump down the vacuum assist, and then your brake is ready to go once it's hooked up. I didn't understand that completely when we first got ours, and so we can tow our car for 6 hours and not above 65 miles an hour for 6 hours. So we was getting close to that 6 hours on one leg of a journey 2 years ago, and I thought, we filled up with fuel. I thought, well, I'll go start the car and let it run, and we'll kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And I started it while everything was hooked up, let it run, I fueled up, and then I went and killed it. And since I didn't unhook the brake, I really thought that was just kind of letting the whole system measure how far the piston needed to go out. I'd read it, but it didn't register. I never even thought about the vacuum assist being pumped up. So now as we took off, every time we're stepping on the brake, and that emergency brake there, every time it was actuated, it was slamming on the brake and holding the brake the whole time we were stopping, and it was just heated them up. It burned up my brake pads, burned up the rotors, because we was pulling out of the truck stop, pulling onto the road and getting up on the highway. So we braked using the brake several times there, and it did a number. after about 15 minutes, I noticed on our tire pressure monitoring system the temperatures had gone up to almost 200 degrees on all 4 tires. And we pulled over to see what was going on, and I took our infrared temperature gun and checked each rotor and brake and wheel to make on the car to make sure that was an accurate reading, and it was. The actual reading was up in the 200s. I think it was registered 160 or 70 on our tire pressure monitoring system, and you could smell brakes and stuff. It was bad. So that cost a little over $1,000 to have new rotors, new brake pads, and everything put on. So my point is, make sure you understand how your braking system works. I'm still nervous about having it sometimes because I don't want that to repeat. So here's the cable from your emergency breakaway switch that hooks into the brakes. So if that pulls that little pin out that I showed you, that pin pops out, then through this wire here, it activates your brakes and the brakes come on. So if your car somehow broke loose, everything came loose, and it broke away, that would activate your brakes and it would stop in a few hundred feet. So that's a good thing. And then you want to double check to make sure that you're in neutral. There's three different times that we went to leave and I had the car in park. I'd let it run and all that stuff, so while I'm hooking up, and I usually have it in park so it doesn't roll forward or backwards. And then I shut it down, set up my brake, and I forget to put it in neutral. And the 2 times at the house, I was standing out beside the car when it happened, and I had Pearl, I did my light checks and had Pearl pull up, and the wheels weren't rolling, they were dragging, so I was able to stop her real quick, and no damage done. And the 3rd time was at a guard shack at one of the 1,000 trails, and we'd checked in, and the guard wasn't there. He was off at a campsite somewhere, so there's a button you push and tell them you're there, and they say, I'll be there up in a minute. So while I was waiting, I decided to go ahead and unhook the car so we could drive around and find our campsite once we got into the park. But the guard showed up before I got unhooked, and I'd got far enough along where I'd put it in park, but I hadn't got the pins released and stuff. And so I got to talking to him, and I got checked in, and then I got in the coach, and we started driving through the park. Well, our coach is 42 foot, and as we were pulling away, we would drive 42 foot, and when the car got up there, even with the guard, he could hear it was on gravel, luckily, but he could hear the tires were just dragging along in the gravel. So he went out and was, waving, and we see him in the mirror and stop. And so luckily that didn't hurt it. So, but I've just been very lucky. If that had been on the road and we'd have took off, no telling how far I would have went before the park thing broke or something, something bad's going to happen from that. So we check and double check that now. Make sure it's in neutral. Make sure accessory power is active. I don't know why the accessory power. Our steering wheel doesn't lock in on the Lincolns. They don't lock. In the Ford Edge, I think it doesn't lock either. But it says leave it on accessory power. So it runs our battery down quite off, probably 4, 6 or 8 times we've got to our campground and the battery's dead. So that's a problem. Checking the brake one more time, making sure there's no vacuum in there. And then I'll have Pearl pull forward, and I'll make sure that the wheel is rolling to know it's not in park, that the brakes aren't on. Make sure you always want to check and double check your pins, and I'll count them 1, 2, 3 on one side, 1, 2, 3 on the other side, and then back at the coach there's a pin. Safety cables. One thing you want to make sure of is that your tow bar is level. I think there's like 2 or 3 inches you can have for it to go up or down. But from the coach to your car, you want that to be level, because when you stop real hard on your coach, you don't want the car, if it's unlevel, the car might rise up or go under. You want that to be a straight line push. So if the tow bar has to go up, 6 or 8 inches, or down 6 or 8 inches, when you're stepping hard on your brake, that's going to give the possibility of your car going down and something getting out of whack, either going down under the coach or going up on top of the tow bar. I mean, obviously that'd be an extreme braking, but you want to make sure that's in a straight line. I think it's 4 inches it can be off. Here I have her pulling forward, and I'm making sure that the steel shaft, that the tow bar is pulled out all the way and locked, so you won't have one pushing in and out. You want them extended, completely extended and locked. You want to do your final walk around, make sure all your doors are shut, your tires look right. And then, as I said, Pearl won't take off and leave. Our deal is that I have to stand there and look and make sure it's in neutral, and then I'd give her a little in, like for neutral. And that's the deal. If I come up and say, no, I know it's in neutral, I have to go back and stand there and look and give her the sign. And then here's where you can go. They put out tow guide. I'll put the web address down in our show notes, but you can look up your year and make and model of car, and it'll tell you if you can tow it 4 down or if you need to tow it on a trailer. And they put out a new list every year. So I hope that helps you guys. Towing, it's really easy to pull a tow. It's a great thing to have a car when you're at your campsite, but you got to do it safely, and you got to have a checklist and make sure you do it right. If this video helps you at all, please give us a thumbs up. If you got any questions or comments, leave them down in the comments down below, or shoot me an email. I usually put my email on most of our, videos. If you got any questions, or if you want to hook up, we're headed up to the Pacific North. We're headed up to New England, and if we come across your part of the country, shoot us an email and let's meet up. We'll have a cup of coffee or a cold beer or whatever. So here's our friends Jack and Kim, and you may remember them. They're the ones that we first met them at Colorado River, and then we met them down in the Rio Grande Valley. Jack's the one and Kim, they're the ones that helped us when I got stuck with tropic winds to dig out. And now then we're here at Medina Lake, and they just showed up a day or two ago, and I just happened to have the drone out when I saw them drive by, so you can watch how their RV and their tow looks. Thanks again, Jack and Kim.